Welcome to my first Wartales video. So this video is being made for the Discord community. It is a run where I am trying to run with just a single archer in my team for at least every fight after the first, more or less. Okay, so at the very start of the game, I've basically kicked off and I have restarted the game a couple of times just to make sure I get an archer with the sprint skill. Getting that sprint skill just means that the chance of me stuffing up a fight is a little bit lower if my archer's the only one there, because you can't get engaged in melee with no way to escape. So that was the point of that. I don't really care what happens to the rest of the party at the start there, who levels up, anything like that. And I just move on, steal a couple of things from the local merchant. I will go back and buy a pony a little bit later once I have a tiny little bit more money. But one of the really cool things about playing with only one or two people in the party is that you end up having a lot of cash available. So you can actually end up splurging, and once there's a little bit more in the game to buy, it'll be even more fun as well. Okay, so first couple of actions: get to town, kick out the swordsman and the brute from the party, make a couple of little things at the tinker's bench while I've still got someone who can be a tinker, make a little bit of extra money by selling some stuff, and then head to get a pony. So here I've kept just enough money to pay wages in case I have to pay wages to two people, but otherwise, yeah, making sure I've got enough just for the pony. Extra carry weight is very, very useful. You will see me steal things pretty much as often as I can just to try to get that thieving skill up and a little bit of extra dexterity. And I do have a lot of fun actually with the little mini games that are in so far as well. So collecting some resources just because I know I'll need to do some blacksmithing a little bit later on. And again, if I didn't have that pony, I'd already pretty much be at my maximum carry weight. Alrighty, so the Lund fight is the second fight that I'm going to do, so I pretty much just head down there collecting some resources along the way, dodging all the other fights, and then getting to him. Now, I have gone into the Lund fight with two companions alive, primarily because the Lund gets to act twice per turn, so if you go in with one character, there's no way to kite him without being killed. And basically what you'll see me do is the little kiting strategy that I use for him. You can complete it successfully with any two characters without getting hit. With four characters, you have to be a little bit more careful with your positioning, but again, you can make it work just as easily with four. Anyway, it was a fun little setup trying to get this guy organised. I do think if you kill Lund with both people alive, both of them hit level 7 as well. So there's actually no advantage to doing this and only leaving one of them alive. I think running with two party members is probably a little bit easier overall. You don't have to do quite as much kiting. Okay, so I choose the marksman skill. The level 5 perk doesn't end up actually making much difference because you're not really going to cause many enemies to bleed, and because if you crit them, you'll kill them, and you also don't need to cause vulnerability on too many people. It does come in useful on Sicker, maybe, but that's about all. So I've let my ranger die, now it's just the archer, so we're into the solo archer proper here, and this next little bit is me just gathering a whole lot of mats from around the map. So you'll need quite a lot of wood to craft the dagger, spear, and bow, because you have to craft the dagger, then the spear to get to the bow. And the path I take here is just to kind of maximize resources without having to double back later in the game, as well as collecting a few little knowledge books from around the place as well. So there's a knowledge book here, there's a knowledge book at the lumber mill, and a knowledge book at the lighthouse. I can't quite remember about Altus Tower. So I did kill him, and pop him in my pony. I was actually going to hand him in and get a ring, but in the end I forgot, so I pretty much just carry his body with me for the whole game. Not creepy at all, I'm sure. Headlong to the watchtower and release this blacksmith. So he's the one that I use to actually craft a whole bunch of gear for myself so that I don't have to switch away from the thief profession. Because you always kind of want to have a thief with you. It's much more useful than most of the other professions while you're in the world map. Pretty much all the other professions are just useful in town, and that's it. You need to have the buildings available for them. I guess cooking, not so much, but I don't know. I tend to buy some things in town, cook, and then leave it. I head over to the sawmill, grab the knowledge book. Now you can get the knowledge book here without prompting the thieving conversation, just by not talking to the slaves in the basement. All right, you'll see me rest up and eat a little bit a number of times, just because I've sped up the gameplay. You'll probably see it a bit more frequently. Hand in my Lund quest, and you can see we're pretty flush with cash now. And particularly after we use the blacksmith to craft a few things and sell a few things as well. Now, I got pretty lucky in this run. I got some leather really, really early on, and so managed to get a tent pretty much straight away. There are some, I guess, map seeds that you don't get much leather available at all, and as a result, it's a bit harder to get the tent. But there is at least one spot that's guarantees some leather that I'll point out later. So I just craft a couple of things, and I'm pretty sure here I realise that I don't have enough wood to actually craft the bow that I want. So I've crafted the dagger and the spear, but I need to do just another little loop to get the bow. And I normally stock up on cloth and leather if I can, just so that I can train a blacksmith up to the level 2. Check this guy for leather as well sometimes. And this little loop was just to get a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more wood. And I just head back to town and craft the bow. Check him for leather. I check every merchant for leather all the time. Alright, so I make my bow, and my archer is now ready to go. And I hand the blacksmith off to the master, get another couple of 100 gold and some influence. Not that I need it. And off we go to fight Sika. Now, I actually did start this fight once, but realised I wasn't recording, so just had to go back to town and reload that so that I could come back up here. I think the first time I fought her, she was actually level 4 with only 4 wolf companions. This fight was actually much easier because they all had 26 health, which is 1 less than my ability does automatically. So it made this fight amazingly simple, and it was probably the easiest fight of the game in the end. I did have trouble with the Sika fight using a 2 archer combination, because it was always difficult to get both archers out of range. Anyway, so that was the Sika fight. I did forget to hand her head back into the master tracker here, so you will see me kind of loop back in a little while. But again, just roaming around, collect some resources, just in case I want to make some more stuff. And I was pretty close, I was close-ish to level 8, so I did actually want to see whether I could get to level 8. That leather in those barrels just there, that's always a guaranteed 5 leather as well. So if you headed there straight off the bat, you're guaranteeing yourself a tent as well. So here I realised that I hadn't handed the Sika quest in, so I just headed back up to do that. I did want to make sure that I had as much crit as possible heading into the bandit lair, just because I knew that there would be a lot of enemies in there. I did play this on normal as well. I think it probably wouldn't have been too much difficult playing it on hard. Maybe some of the fights would have taken a tiny little bit longer. There was always a chance that I wouldn't one-shot enemies. So, you know, I do have to two-shot a number as the game progresses. But overall, I don't think it was too hard. And you'll just see me kind of kill everyone that I don't need, all the potential companions. I decided to go off and do this fight. It wasn't strictly necessary. I did just want to see whether maybe I could get enough experience to get to level 8 and get either one more point of movement or dexterity. But here I do fight a couple of level 2s, and they are more likely to live from a single bow shot than not. So I just kind of play around. I knew I had a fair bit of health to play with though, so didn't worry too much if I got hit and took a little bit of damage. And my lockpicking was not the best here, I do have to say. Managed them, but I did start running a bit low on lockpicks. Whoops. And so if you steal pretty much everything in the game and lockpick everything, you can get your thief up to the 3rd level of skill. Gives a nice little dexterity bonus, but I didn't worry about that so much in this game. I do have to admit I forgot to rename the character Robin Hood. That was one thing I had planned on doing. Alright, headed back to Stromcap just to make the final piece of armour that I wanted. The armour patch. So I just had to hire a brute to become my armourer. Could have done it myself, but I like that extra dex bonus on the thieving. So I just have to craft a couple of items to level him up. And I really love the customization. So all of the level up points I have actually added into his movement. So with the +2 movement armor, this character now has 17 move, which is huge. It's one of the first games where, I don't know, not just pumping the main statistic does seem to actually provide some use. So, you know, constitution not so useful on them, and obviously no strength on an archer, but there is a really, really good use so far for dexterity, willpower, and movement. So I think it'll be an interesting balance. Okay, so I think I've got 12 opponents. This is actually where I realised that I had left the brute that I hired as a blacksmith alive. I considered doing the fight and then thought, even though maybe it would speed it up, that I should just reload, and I'd saved it literally just before this fight. So kicked him out here and then kicked the fight off again. So we got the same number of opponents and same level opponents. Slightly different map. Didn't really look at the last one for long enough to say which one would be better or worse. Anyway, so this fight basically just involves me kiting the enemies around. Because there are so many poachers, it is actually a slightly risky fight, but not incredibly. So the poachers are my first targets. They're the ones that I try to kill before the the melee bandit guys. And I think probably the biggest mistake that I made was missing out on 1 point of dexterity. So if I'd had a single damage more, then my ability to shoot people as they came into range would have actually one-shot each of these enemies, as opposed to leaving them with 1 health point. Had I just 1 more point of dexterity, this fight would have actually gone even faster and smoother. I would have had to use a few more action points, but I had plenty to spare. And so I think I get a little bit unlucky with the next couple of shots, and 2 enemies do survive, both with a couple of hit points each. And so that difference just between one-shotting and two-shotting them does make a pretty big difference in how long the run, or how long this fight ended up taking. And you can see I did start getting a little bit lower on health as well, down to 31. I think I even get hit once or twice more as well. Yep, there we go. Once they were down though, pretty straightforward. Did end up with did end up being able to cancel this fight pretty quickly as well. With 2 of them still left alive, I hadn't expected that. And that is the run with a single archer. Thanks for watching.